A puppet is free as long as he loves his strings. We are all prisoners of our thoughts. The habit of spending nearly every waking moment in thought leaves us at the mercy of whatever our thoughts happen to be. Meditation is the way of breaking this spell. The core of science is not mathematical modeling. It is intellectual honesty. It is a willingness to have our certainties about the world constrained by good evidence and good argument. Either God can do nothing to stop catastrophes like this, or he doesn't care to, or he doesn't exist. God is either impotent, evil, or imaginary. Take your pick and choose wisely. Consider it. Every person you have ever met, every person will suffer the loss of his friends and family, are all going to lose everything they love in the world. Why would one want to be anything but kind to them in the meantime? If someone doesn't value evidence, what evidence are you going to provide that person that they should value evidence? If someone doesn't value logic, what logical argument would you invoke to prove that they should value logic? The problem with religion, because it's been sheltered from criticism, is that it allows people to believe en masse what only idiots or lunatics could believe in isolation. You don't get anything worth getting by pretending you know things you don't know. How we pay attention to the present moment determines the character of our experience and the quality of our lives. You can do what you decide to do, but you cannot decide what you will decide to do. Norway, Iceland, Australia, Canada, Sweden, Switzerland, Belgium, Japan, the Netherlands, Denmark, and the United Kingdom are among the least religious societies on Earth, according to the United Nations Human Development Report of 2005. They are also the healthiest, as indicated by life expectancy, adult literacy, per capita income, educational attainment, gender equality, homicide rate, and infant mortality. Conversely, the 50 nations now ranked the lowest in terms of the United Nations Human Development Report Index are unwaveringly religious. In fact, atheism is a term that should not even exist. No one ever needs to identify himself as a non-astrologer or a non-alchemist. We do not have words for people who doubt that Elvis is still alive or that aliens have traveled the galaxy only to molest ranchers and their cattle. Atheism is nothing more than the noises responsible people make in the persistence of unjustified religious beliefs. Everything we do is for the purpose of altering consciousness. We form friendship so we can feel certain emotions, like love, and avoid others, like loneliness. We eat specific foods to enjoy their fleeting presence on our tongues. We read for the pleasure of thinking other person's thoughts. We can't take credit for your talents, but it matters that you use them. You can't really be blamed for your weaknesses, but it matters that you correct them. So pride and shame don't make a lot of sense in the final analysis, but they weren't much fun anyway. This is the true horror of religion. It allows perfectly decent, sane people to believe by billions what only lunatics could believe on their own. Water is 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen. What if someone says, well, that's not how I choose to think about water? All we can do is appeal to scientific values. And if he doesn't share those values, the conversation is over. If someone doesn't value evidence, what evidence are you going to provide to prove that he should value it? If someone doesn't value logic, what logical argument could you provide to show the importance of logic? Unlike statements of fact, which require no further work on our part, lies must be continually protected from collision with reality. How can we be free as conscious agents if everything that we consciously intend is caused by events in our brain that we do not intend and which we are entirely unaware? We can't. The men who committed the atrocities of September 11th were certainly not cowards, as they were repeatedly described by the Western media. Nor were they lunatics in any ordinary sense. They were men of faith, perfect faith, as it turns out. And this, it must finally be acknowledged, is a terrible thing to be. The position of the Muslim community in the face of all provocation seems to be, Islam is a religion of peace, and if you say that it isn't, we will kill you. We have a choice. We have two options as human beings. We have a choice between conversation and war. That's it. Conversation and violence. And faith is a conversation stopper. People who harbor strong convictions without evidence belong on the margins of societies, not in our halls of power. Sam Harris, you almost never get the pleasure of seeing that you won the argument in real time. People just don't like to publicly change their minds. They change their minds in private. Indeed, religion allows people to imagine that their concerns are moral when they are highly immoral. That is, when pressing these concerns inflicts unnecessary and appalling suffering on innocent human beings. This explains why Christians, like yourself, expend more moral energy opposing abortion than fighting genocide. It explains why you are more concerned about human embryos than about the life-saving promise of stem cell research. And it explains why you can preach against condom use in sub-Saharan Africa while millions die of AIDS there each year. Our wills are simply not our own making. Thoughts and intentions emerge from background causes of which we are unaware and over which we expect no conscious control. We do not have the freedom we think we have. We do not know what awaits each of us after death, but we know that we will die. Clearly, it must be possible to live ethically with the genuine concern for that happiness of other sentient beings without presuming to know things about which we are patently ignorant. Consider it. Every person that you have ever met, every person you will pass in the street today, is going to die. Living long enough, each will suffer the loss of his friends and family. All are going to lose everything they love in this world. Why would one want to be anything but kind to them in the meantime? Jesus Christ, who, as it turns out, was born of a virgin, cheated death, and rose bodily into heaven, can now be eaten in the form of a cracker. Science is the most durable and non-divisive way of thinking about the human circumstance. It transcends cultural, national, and political boundaries. You don't have American science versus Canadian science versus Japanese science. We do not respect people's beliefs. We evaluate their reasons. If my reasons are good enough for believing what I believe, you will helplessly believe what I believe. I will give you my reasons, and reasons are contagious. That is what it is to be a rational human being. Almost all of our suffering is the product of our thoughts. We spend nearly every moment of our lives lost in thought and hostage to the character of those thoughts. You can break this spell, but it takes training, just like it takes training to defend yourself against a physical assault. The only thing that permits human beings to collaborate with one another in a truly open-ended way is their willingness to have their beliefs modified by new facts. Only openness to evidence and argument will secure a common world for us. The President of the United States has claimed on more than one occasion to be in dialogue with God. If he said that he was talking to God through his hair dryer, this would precipitate a national emergency. I fail to see how the addition of a hair dryer makes the claim more ridiculous or offensive. When considering the truth of a proposition, one is either engaged in the honest appraisal of the evidence of the logical arguments, or one isn't. Religion is one area of our lives where people imagine that some other standard of intellectual integrity applies. It is rather more noble to help people purely out of concern for their suffering than it is to help them because you think the creator of the universe wants you to do it, or will regard you, or will reward you for doing it, or will punish you for not doing it. The problem with this linkage between religion and morality is that it gives people bad reasons to help other human beings when good reasons are available. As an atheist, I am angry that we live in a society in which the plain truth cannot be spoken without offending 90% of the population. It is time that we admitted that faith is nothing more than the license religious people give one another to keep believing when reason fails. The problem is not that religious people are stupid. It's not that religious fundamentals are stupid. I happen to think that you can be so well educated that you can build a nuclear bomb and still believe that you will get them from 72 virgins in paradise. That is the problem. The problem is that religion, because it has been sheltered from criticism as it has been, allows people, perfectly sane, perfectly intelligent people, to believe en masse what only idiots or lunatics could believe in isolation. Tell a devout Christian that his wife is cheating on him, or that frozen yogurt can make a man invisible, and he is likely to require as much evidence as anyone else, and to be persuaded only to the extent that you will give it. Tell him that the book he keeps by his bed was written by an invisible deity who will punish him with fire for eternity if he fails to accept its every incredible claim about the universe, and he seems to require no evidence whatsoever. Atheism is not a philosophy. It is not even a view of the world. It is simply a refusal to deny the obvious. Unfortunately, we live in a world which the obvious is overlooked as a matter of principle. Mahavira, the Jain patriarch, surpassed the mortality of the Bible with a single sentence: "Do not injure, abuse, oppress, enslave, insult, torment, torture, or kill any creature or living being." Imagine how different our world might be if the Bible contained this as its central precept.